Hey, what's going on? Instructor Brooks here. Today, we're going to be doing the biomechanic literacy for the pull-up and the push-up. So, hopefully you've had a chance to look over those test questions, and we'll dive right into this sucker. Test taking commandment number 1. We've talked about this before in this little live series. Read everything correctly, all right? It's not just about reading it, it's about reading it correctly. If you don't read it correctly, no amount of studying is going to fix that problem. Source material as always, so far, Essentials of Kinesiology. Objectives for today, like I said, rule number 1, read everything correctly, all right? Also, envisioning exactly what's happening in the question. We talked about that last week. You have to be able to not only read it correctly, but then can you envision what they're saying or what the test maker is asking? Of course, we'll probably be able to apply some orthokinematics, osteokinematics, concentric, eccentric, open chain, and closed chain activities. So, first question. Now today I'm going to, remember there'll be the polls. Yeah, go Rockies. Hey, Nick. Megan's feeling better, and I'm feeling pretty good. So, which is great. Yeah, thanks for asking, man. So today I'll put out the poll question, and then you can answer true or false, and I'll give you 30 seconds. On the boards, you get 80 seconds per question theoretically, so we're going to set ourselves to a much higher standard. And there's question number 1. I'll put the poll out. So the patient's performing pull-ups as the patient moves away from the earth. The lats, levator scapula, and rhomboids are contracting concentrically to rotate the scapula downward. A lot of stuff in that question. All right, that's been 30 seconds. We're going to end that poll. We had one answer, yeah, and it's true. So let's make sure. Let's make sure everything in this statement is true. Patient is performing pull-ups. Okay. Oh, I didn't even show you the video. Look at this. I'm able to do 2 before I feel like my shoulders are going to explode. So as the patient moves away from the earth, so we know it has to be concentric, so we are good here. Concentric. Which means we're looking at downward rotation of the scapula. Is my scapula downwardly rotating as I go up? It absolutely is. So are these muscles downward rotators? And the lats, absolutely. Levator scapula, yes. And rhomboids, yes. So the answer is true. Awesome. Next question. Nick said he lost our stream. The patient is performing pull-ups, as they will be in all these questions. As the patient moves away from the earth, should be concentric, right? The biceps are contracting concentrically to flex the elbow. So we have the concentric parts true. So is the elbow even flexing? Because if it's not, then we don't even need to worry about it. Yep, the elbow is flexing. Okay, so that's true. Now as I move away from the earth, are the biceps the muscle that's causing that elbow flexion? And the answer is, let's see what we said here. Nice. We got 100% true. It is true. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Next. All right. The patient is performing pull-ups. As the patient lowers herself to the earth, the triceps are contracting eccentrically. So we're going to the earth, so eccentric is true. As the elbow slowly extends. So let's double check here as I'm going down. So you got me going up, so the elbow's flexing. We agree to that. The elbow is extending as I come down, so that is also true. So the question is, are the triceps extending the elbow eccentrically? And the answer is... oh, we got dissension. And in that poll, the answer is false. The triceps are not involved at the elbow during a pull-up. Remember, once you've established muscles moving away from the earth, do not change the muscle unless we change the direction of resistance. So the biceps, that's how we'd make this true. The biceps are the ones that are eccentrically contracting to slowly extend the elbow. Don't let those eccentric ones fool you. Next question. All right, the patient is performing pull-ups. As the patient lowers herself to the earth, the upper and lower traps are assisting in upward rotation. So let's see, is the motion correct? As you come down, yes, because the inferior angle of the scapula as I'm coming down is going up and out. I am downwardly rotated here, scapulas are retracted. I am upwardly rotated here, they are protracted. So upward rotation is happening as I lower myself to the earth. So, are the upper and lower traps assisting with rotation of the scapula? Let's see what y'all said. "50-50 split." The answer is false. The lower traps and upper traps are upward rotators of the scapula, so they will not be involved in a pull-up. False. We could put our lats here, we could put rhomboids, we could put levator. Those would have made that acceptable. Next. Whoops. Okay, the patient is performing pull-ups. Damage to the radial nerve will affect his ability to control his elbow as it moves into extension while returning to the earth. So, my elbow is moving into extension as I move towards the earth, so all of that's true. So then it's pretty much giving you the nerve to see if you can figure out the muscle. So, is the radial nerve innervating a muscle that controls elbow extension as I move down? So as we process this from the earlier question, we established that the biceps are controlling motion at the elbow up and down. Concentric up, eccentric down. So, biceps. And now we have to think, okay, are the biceps innervated by the radial nerve? And the answer is no, they're innervated by the musculocutaneous nerve. So the answer to this, let's see what we got here. Good job, Nick, is false. Next question. Hey, these are tough, Megsy. Tough questions. Oops, sorry about that. At least I know, Megan, you will not pick the hip flexors as something controlling hip motion during a squat. That's the key. No hip flexors. Okay, this question here. The patient's performing pull-ups. Damage to the musculocutaneous nerve, which we already know from the previous question is going to be our biceps. So damage to the musculocutaneous nerve will negatively affect the patient's ability to control elbow extension as he lowers himself to the earth. So let's watch this picture video again. We should be 100% sure that as I'm coming down that motion is extension, and it is extension. We know the biceps are controlling that motion, so the answer is good. We got 100% on the true. True. There you go. Awesome. All right. So now what? Well, we're going to go to the push-up here in just a second. But remember, self-assess. See, how did you do? What are you missing? And then that can help you focus your studying. Are you getting all the ones moving away from the earth, but when it gets eccentric, you just get twisted up? Then that's what we need to work on. Also, don't forget, I have my muscle anatomy study strategy that if you're having a hard time answering these questions, but you've memorized the flashcards, that's probably one of your problems. Check out the muscle anatomy study strategy. Link in the description for more details. And the next live session is right now. We're going to the push-ups. So I'm going to take like a 2-second break while I switch this around, and I'll see you in a minute. Told you that'd be a short break. He's back. He's back. All right. So, biomechanic literacy for the push-up. Let's do this. Hey, read everything correctly. If you don't know that by now, don't know what to tell you. Source material as usual. Understanding all the things we want to know. Orthokinematics, concentric, eccentric, envisioning what's happening, reading the test question correctly, all that stuff. So, question number 1, here we go. Guess I get that video moving for you. Whoa. So the patient is performing push-ups. As the patient moves towards the earth, so we know it needs to be eccentric, the serratus anterior is contracting eccentrically to control scapular retraction. So, as the patient moves towards the earth, so is the scapula retracting as you move towards the earth in a push-up? And the answer is yes, this is true. Whoop. Sorry about that. Let's get my pen back. So scapular retraction is true. as I'm moving down. So, and it is eccentric because I'm moving towards the earth. So, which muscle's controlling that? Don't pick your scapular retractors. It needs to be your protractors because that's the motion occurring as you move away from the earth. And the serratus anterior protracts the scapula. So, the answer is... just ending that poll there for you. We got some dissension. The answer is true. As you're moving towards the earth, the scapula is retracting. The muscle working is eccentric because they're going towards the earth. And that muscle is the serratus anterior. Next question. So again, we have a patient performing a push-up. As she moves towards the earth, eccentric, the biceps are eccentrically contracting. Well, this is a true statement, so we're going to keep that. To control the elbow as it flexes. So as I move towards the earth, is the elbow flexing? So here's a way. And, yep, there we go. Yes, the elbow is flexing as I move towards the earth. So elbow flexion is occurring, moving towards the earth. It all comes down to this muscle. Do the biceps flex the elbow? They sure do, but not when you're moving towards the earth. The muscle at the elbow is going to be your triceps. So this answer must be... good job. We got 100%. Must be false. The key is once you establish the muscles that are involved in the activity, don't change them. But you need to know the muscles first. Otherwise, you get tripped up because if every time the question is asked, you're trying to, remember the muscles involved, now you're letting the question get you all twisted up. So that's why I can't stress enough the importance of being able to answer a host of questions by knowing muscle, action, and nerve. You can do so much with that. Next question. All right, the patient's performing push-ups as he is moving away from the earth, concentric. Damage to the long thoracic nerve will negatively affect the ability to control scapular protraction. So we'll save the nerve for last. So as I move away from the earth, should be concentric. That's not in here at all. So as I move away from the earth, is the scapula protracting? It is. So this is true. So as he's moving away from the earth, protraction, all true. And this really just comes down to long thoracic nerve. So at the scapula, what is our scapular muscle? It is the serratus. Oops, that's not right in there. So do you know the nerve? It is the long thoracic. So the answer is going to be true. Good job, the three of you voting. True, 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 true. Long thoracic is the serratus. Serratus is controlling protraction as the patient moves away from the earth. Awesome. Feels good when you can start dissecting these, right? Can speak the language. Oh, sorry. This poll question coming out is a yes, no. Just answer yes for true and no for false. Jeez, I should have been doing that to begin with. Yes for true, no for false. So, question. The patient is performing push-ups. As the patient moves away from the earth, the shoulder is flexing. Ooh, this is like a lower level question here. So, Doing a push-up, yes. As the patient moves away from the earth, the shoulder is flexing. So let's get this video to refresh. Let's see. So moving towards the earth, doesn't count yet. So we're gonna start here. We're starting here. Let's see. Does the humerus move anterior? It totally does. Which means the answer to this, as we end this poll, as you move away from the earth, the shoulder is flexing. True, the shoulder is flexing. Pop quiz. Feel free to type it in the chat if you want to take a stab at it. What muscle will flex the shoulder that's innervated by the axillary nerve? Type it in the chat, and I'll let you know later if you got it. You are correct, Nick. Never doubted you for a second. The patient is performing push-ups. As the patient moves towards the earth, okay, so it should be eccentric. The triceps, all right, are contracting eccentrically, so it's going towards the earth. True. Is the elbow flexing as I move towards the earth? Well, it's extending when I move away, so it's probably flexing when I come back, right? But let's just double check. As I come back down, yep, that elbow is flexing. So this is right. So then it comes down to, is this muscle correct? And it is. The answer is true. True. So now, if you look at this question here, you should be getting pretty good at this. You could see how they could easily change triceps to the nerve, which is going to be your radial nerve. So if they said as the patient moves towards the earth, the muscle innervated by the radial nerve is contracting eccentrically to control elbow flexion, boom, because you know muscle nerve, you got it. Right? The patient's performing push-ups. Damage to the thoracodorsal nerve will reduce the ability of the lats to downwardly rotate the scapula. Okay, so let's work through this. So as the patient's performing, the damage to the will reduce the ability. So this doesn't have anything about direction. There's no eccentric, concentric. So obviously thoracodorsal nerve is connecting to some muscle. And they're saying here the lats. So is that true? Yes, we're going to make that positive. The thoracodorsal nerve does innervate the lats. Now, do the lats downwardly rotate the scapula? The answer for that is also in the positive. Yes, that's true. So, now we have to ask ourselves, do the lats work during a push-up? And the answer is, let's see. We're divided. The answer is false. The lats are a downward rotator. Totally agree. But when I move away from the earth, what motion is actually occurring at the scapula? Upward rotation. And our upward rotators are going to be those upper traps, lower traps, and serratus. So this is one of those where the lats just are not involved at all in this activity. So everything was true except for the fact that they're not involved. And even though that question to me is actually a little simpler in terms of complexity, it is harder, I think, for students because they'll see that so much is true and they'll forget about the very last part of analyzing it, and that is, yeah, but does that muscle even work for the activity we're doing? All right, next question. Yeah, those nerve questions. I get when you go nerve and they don't give you the muscle, they'll throw you off. Yeah, I don't know if Nick's gotten 100 on this. I'm not keeping that kind of track, but wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me. All right, we have. This is our last question, too. Oh, last one. Let's see. Let's bring it home. The patient is performing push-ups. To do this with proper form, this is worded in a way we haven't had yet, the patient will need to maintain an isometric contraction of the rectus abdominis and hip flexors to maintain a neutral spine. All right, so this has nothing to do with all the other stuff. So this is one of those, let's see if you remember or know stuff from, say, a plank. Because a push-up is a plank, except you're moving your arms. That's it. So, when doing this, to maintain proper form, we need an isometric contraction. So, let's see, is that contraction type right? Well, when I'm doing the push-up, my spine is not moving. Okay? I mean, it's moving, but it's not doing an osteokinematic motion. Which means if it doesn't have motion occurring at the spine because you're doing the push-up correctly, isometric is going to be correct. So, if what I think is good to do in situations where we have isometric contractions is imagine what will happen if the muscles they present fail. What will happen if these fail? So if these fail, and this is great that I'm paused right now, if these fail, if my rectus abdominis fails, what motion is going to occur at the spine? We're going to have lumbar extension. I'm going to sink in, and which will also cause me to be in, so I will be in, lumbar hyperlordosis, and I'm going to be in hip extension. So to get out of, so when you think of the failure, think about, okay, what muscles do I have to contract to get out of that? So if my lumbar spine is hyperextended, what muscle flexes the spine? Rectus abdominis. And if I'm stuck in hip extension, what muscle is going to get me out of hip extension? Hip flexors. Hip flexors. So is the rectus abdominis a lumbar flexor? Yes, true. Would the hip flexors get me out of extension? True. So, as we reread through this question, the patient is performing push-ups. To do this with proper form, the patient will need to maintain an isometric contraction of the rectus abdominis and hip flexors. Absolutely true. And we got 100% correct on that. That's awesome. Glad no one thought that the glute max was involved in that. Great. So, again, remember, self-assess, self-assess, self-assess. This is the last in the series so far that I have planned for these types of biomechanic questions. I'm probably going to, on the next live session next weekend, well, I'm not going to be live next weekend because I'll be out of town, but when I come back, we're going to start maybe doing some quick muscle blasters on some action origin insertion stuff, and then we're going to be transitioning into gait. I'm really excited. By the beginning of May, we'll be definitely working on gait, and I might even start some of that in April. So also at the end of this, in the comment section of this video, or even in the chat now, you could write down if there's something you want me to try to do on a Saturday. Feel free. I'll fit it in. I'll go over pretty much just about anything, as long as it's not modalities. I got some other people that can go over stuff like that. Modalities and peds are the two things I don't do. So, but I got other people that can. So, yeah, that's awesome. Next session will be in 2 weeks. So enjoy the break off. Use that to recharge or study more. And as always, have an awesome day. You rock. Let's play it out. You all did fantastic. Go Rockies. Peace out.